Now, a Jewish political appointee in the U.S. Interior Department has resigned in protest against President Joe Biden's support for Israel's war in Gaza. Lily Greenberg Call, who worked on the Biden election campaign, is the first Jewish official to publicly resign over the war. Let's go to Shihab Rattansi. He's live for us in Washington, D.C. Shihab, so talk us through exactly what's been announced.
And it's an interesting thing. Yes, she is the first Jewish appointee in the Biden administration to resign. But in fact, a member of the Defense Intelligence Agency on Monday resigned, who was also of Jewish descent. But he wasn't an appointee. He'd been working his way up the system. The DIA is the Pentagon equivalent of the CIA. But I'll give you some choice bits from the letter itself. She talks about how much she believed in Biden fighting for a better America. But then she says that she was thrilled to join the Department of Interior, but what she suggests, what's the point of power if you can't actually use it? I can no longer in good conscience continue to represent this administration amidst President Biden's disastrous continued support for Israel's genocide in Gaza. She says she talks about how her own family escaped anti-Semitic persecution in Europe, and then within 2 generations she managed to reach her position in the Biden administration. But what's the point of having power if you'll not use it to stop crimes against humanity? And she's particularly triggered, it would appear, by Biden constantly conflating being Jewish with what Israel is doing in Gaza. And she's subsequently spoken about how, Biden saying, were there no Israel, there wouldn't be a Jew in the world who was safe, and was talking about how the Hamas attacks were triggered by ancient desire to wipe out the Jewish people. But what Call says is Biden is making Jews the face of the American war machine, and that is so deeply wrong, noting that her own ancestors were killed by state-sponsored violence. And in fact, Biden, by doing that, and Israel, by doing what it's doing in Gaza, is making Jews very unsafe.
And what do we make of the timing of this?
Well, in the letter, she clearly is pegging it, to use a news term, to Nakba Day, which you were just talking about. So she says, today is May 15th, Nakba Day. I reject the premise that one people's salvation must come at another's destruction. I'm committed to creating a world where this does not happen, and this cannot be done from within the Biden administration. Beyond that, the timing is, she's another official from the Biden administration to resign. We've had several from the State Department who've resigned. We've had the chap from the DIA that I just mentioned, someone from the Education Department. We had an enlisted airman set fire to himself, Aaron Bushnell, outside the White House. And this does reflect what we've been hearing consistently over the last several months of the intense unease within the administration, particularly in the State Department, which I've seen people refer to as being in open revolt. Well, maybe closed revolt, open revolt within the walls of the State Department. And lots of letters have been sent to Blinken and others saying, what on earth are you doing? Why aren't you listening to us? But often they're sent sort of anonymously and not publicly like this. So I think that's the difference, is whether more people will publicly come out, because there is that fear of retribution. In fact, Call's Twitter account was suspended briefly. We're not quite sure what the connection there, but now she's back online. But there is that sense that something has to give. But for Biden, for Tony Blinken, for Jake Sullivan, for Brett McGurk, they're the ones who are driving this policy. They aren't listening to anyone else in the administration, and they're driven by their own personal sense of intense Zionism and the wishes of their billionaire donors in the coming election.
OK, thank you for that. Shihab Rattansi there for us live in Washington, D.C.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.